Thank you. Thank you for connecting. Can everybody hear me? Thank you, Cheyenne. Thank you, Floyd. For those who have missed the first two sessions, I will do a quick recap, catch up. The process of unification of the soul with the super soul, or the Atma to the Paramatma, is known as the Ananda Karaj. It's the path of the blessed union with the divine. And in the first stage, I shared with you that a journey starts when a seeker is standing on a crossroad of his life or their lives. They are finding no satisfaction in the world that they live in. They are finding no satisfaction in the world that they live in. They are jumping from one pretentious relationship to another only to be hurt. And they're the puppets of Maya. From one friend to another, from one place to another, drowning in the emotions of the Bhavsagar, the ocean of Maya. And they've come to a point in their lives where they wish not to pursue the life that they had been leading. This life of being happy, sleeping, merrymaking, eating, gave them no more satisfaction. For some reason, the enjoyment of the way they had been living their lives is not giving them that peace that they had hoped for. They need to find a deeper purpose in life and to find their innate happiness, not happiness driven by a brand new car or a brand new handbag or a brand new holiday. They are transitory. What makes you happy today will make you sad tomorrow. That is a fact of life, accepted. There is something deep within us where our innate happiness lies. This place is known as Begumpura Sheher Ka Naam, a place where there is no pain, no stress, no worry. And to get to that place, they have to make a journey from deep within. Where are we at this moment in time? At this moment, we are completely and totally engrossed in the Rajgun, Tamagun, and the Sattvic stage of the mind. A dense state of the mind, a passionate state of the mind, and that state of the mind that makes us believe that we are divine and we are holy. But they're all three stages of the Maya. And many spiritual seekers get caught in the Sattvic stage. Because in the Sattvic stage, the illusions of your spiritual superiority cannot be circumnavigated without a true master. Otherwise, you will get caught and trapped. It becomes the blind leading the blind. A very dangerous situation for both. So a seeker has to make a choice. A, are they happy where they are? Or is there a better purpose, a higher purpose for them? The day they make that choice, and the day that they decide that they wish to pursue the innate happiness within them, then from that day, the journey towards the enlightenment begins. Now that we've made this choice, so what's the first thing we do? Like any child, any responsible parent will choose the right school and the right teacher for them. So you choose that school, that teacher, who is going to give you a loving, unified, beautiful, spiritual dimension within you, who is going to create that above the trivialities of the way people think, the way people dress, and my way, and my way, and your way, and your way. A true teacher has no time for any of that. A teacher who has seen and made that journey, the teacher who has risen above the three gunas, a teacher who has served under a true spiritual master, a teacher who has done their apprenticeship and have personally experienced. But I tell you one thing, there are many false teachers in this world, and they're very good at taking money out of your pockets simply by the words that they use. This path is not a path of words, this is a path of love, a path of dedication. Once you find such a teacher from whom you wish to take your teachings, from whom you wish to receive your guidance, then sit there, stay with that teacher. I remember my spiritual master, 6 months it took me before he accepted me. Every time I would say, Babaji, can I be your student? He would say, go away, think about it. Try some other people. And it just so happened that one morning I had a vision. And the vision was, now is the time, go. And I remember it was probably about 2, I was just in meditation and I woke my wife. I says, let's go. She goes, why? I says, I've just received some guidance. We need to go to Babaji. Today is my lucky day. So I had my shower, jumped into the car and got down to London where he used to stay. And I knocked on the doorbell at 5 in the morning and he opened the door and he sat me down. And even then, it took me nearly 4 hours of pleading before he finally accepted me as his master, me as his student and him to teach me. And he said one thing to me, when you go to a teacher, once you've accepted that teacher, whatever happens, make sure you stay focused. But before you accept the teacher, make sure that you've accepted the right teacher, a teacher who lives by those values themselves, the teacher who has done the path, a teacher who is full of love. So it's no easy path. But once you find a teacher with whom you wish to learn from, then sit there, stay there. It doesn't matter what anybody says, simply stay there and listen, because true teachings will take you to your higher self. Any teacher that is creating division in your heart, any teacher that is interested in simply your money, think twice. Because where there's money involved, believe me, the truth will be sacrificed. And then have the ability to listen, not to hear. What happens in any husband and wife relationship? 2 people are arguing. but nobody is really listening to each other. They're only hearing what they want to hear. And this becomes a huge problem in any relationship. We haven't perfected the art of listening, because listening requires all our passion, our conscious alertness, our awareness. Everything that we are must be in the moment on whoever is talking to us. But we, in the main, simply hear. And this hearing gives no end of problems, not simply with our loved ones or our friends or at home. It gives a huge problem in our spiritual relationship. And this is why we have so many arguments in the arena of religion, because nobody has listened to the message. This is known as parvartikar. And this is the first stage of your spiritual journey. But one thing I would like to share with you, that through the 4 stages of spiritual enlightenment, to be effective, the seeker must be genuine in their efforts. No, I tried my best, I couldn't do this, it will not work. You must have to implement the teacher's teachings in a very genuine way, and the master has to be capable. Not reading from internet and passing it on to you, but I am talking about real experience from deep within. Then as we reflect on the teachings, the seeker is encouraged to meditate on the Shabd. The Shabd, the word. Again, if you're a Christian, the name of Jesus. Perfect, beautiful, much power if you can say that with passion. Allah, if you're a Muslim. Waheguru, Mool Mantra if you're a Sikh. Buddha, if you're a Buddhist. Whichever mantra, Om, if you're a Hindu, whichever mantra you believe in, that is your Shabd. The name of the divine is your Shabd. Start meditating. Start meditating from day 1. From the first day you start this journey. Why? Because as we meditate on the true Guru in earnest, our sins will begin slowly to disappear. Now I want you to imagine a seed. You have this seed and you plant this seed, and the chances are it will grow. However, if we roast the same seed and plant that same seed in exactly the same place, that seed will not grow because it's been roasted. It's been absolutely decimated inside. Similarly, the seeds of our karma has a profound effect on our day-to-day living, the way we think, the way we behave, our every action is based and run through the cycle of karma. And in this karma, we suffer pain. Dokha, sokha, karta, janama funmuga, charana kamalagor asram diya, dukh, pain, sukh, perceived happiness. And this is how we live our life. So as we meditate, what happens is that in the cauldron of the Shabd, all we are doing is roasting our karmic seeds. So if you're a Muslim, Allah, Allah, Allah. If you're a Jesus, follower of Jesus, Jesus, Jesus. Om, Om. Lovingly, lovingly. Don't shout. Right? Remember the divine with love, with peace in your heart. And in this way, the aggravated mind, which has been stirred by the forces of Maya, will begin to find its peace. Peace will become more profound as our negative karmic footprints will no longer affect our spiritual progress. As our karmic footprints begin to disappear, begin to burn out, our spiritual progress will become beautiful. This is the end of the first stage. And what I've explained to you in 5-7 minutes, for many people will take many, many lives just to go through this. Because remember, there is a force of Maya at every step, in every thought around you, which is going to stop you from this path. What happens when in the morning it's time to meditate and the mind is saying, tired? Who's tired? Who's talking to you? But what happens when you want to go to a party and the mind says, go, put that dress on, put that this on, do this, do that? What happens? Okay, this is Maya. Just understand the trappings of Maya. Yeah, Maya will have you. So understand that. When people just look at yourself and say, why am I thinking like this? Why am I finding it so difficult to do the right thing? And so easy to do the wrong thing. This is Maya. And this Maya is holding us in bondage, is taking away the real innate happiness that we have within us. So going on from there, we move into the second stage. And now the true master will begin to prepare the seeker, disciple, for their first experience with their divine. Now, how will this first experience be like? This experience is a manifestation of what we call anhadton. These are the celestial sounds, or the orchestra, or the symphony of the divine. And in many spiritual understandings, this is also known as the voice of the divine. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful messages are passed through the divine orchestra. In fact, it's such a beautiful place, people simply lose themselves there. Many, many saints have sent, many, many yogas, the rishis and the yogis sat there just listening to the divine music within. But understand one thing, this is not an absolute experience. This is simply what we call the manifestation of the experience. It's known as the expression. This is not the absolute, because the divine in absolute cannot be experienced. The manifestation, the expressions of the divine will be experienced. And from there, as you go through successfully, you'll end up in an experience of the omnipresence. Suddenly you will start looking at people and saying, they're mine, they're mine. I don't feel any anger towards them. I'm happy, no problems. Everyone is mine. This is another experience, another expression of the divine. This is actually experiencing the omnipresence of the divine. So in the second stage, from the music, you go into the omnipresence. The omnipresence of the divine becomes very strong, and your animosity towards people will start lessening. Again, furthermore, the mind will even settle more. And remember, you're still doing your mantra and you're still keeping the Sangat of the teacher. And as in the scriptures it says, Je tu mera hoye rahe, sab jag tera hoye. My child, if you become mine, this whole world will become yours. And I remember my master used to be very strong on this teaching. He used to say to me, son, he goes, once you become insured with the divine, don't worry. Don't worry what people say or people do. It's okay. The divine will look after. You just carry on. with your purpose. So as you start becoming deeper and deeper into this understanding of the presence of divine around you and within you, slowly the mind and the heart will fall into unison. No longer will the mind be scattered somewhere else and your heart is somewhere else. And how many times our minds are somewhere and our heart is somewhere else? We're never in the moment. We're never in the present. We're not in unison. And slowly the cohesion of the mind and the heart will start bonding together. Now what happens? From the soft sounds of the celestial music, and when the unison of the mind and the heart happens, another birth of the Shabd will come. And this is a real rapturous sound. Gur Shabdi Govind Gajya. Gajya means it's like a thunder, like huge thunderous clouds. You will hear Shabds like that. And these huge thunderous clouds, this voice of the divine, it will begin to vibrate in every part of the seeker disciple. And the soul that had been separated for eternity from its creator will lose itself in this tone, in this vibration. And here, the second stage of enlightenment has been achieved. So from being a searcher, you are now absorbed in the divine symphony, and your eyes have become in unison so that you see no enemies and no, everything is the same to you. From selecting the teacher to listening and absorbing the teachings, then intense meditation, burning out our negative karmas, then the experience of the omnipresence of the divine in all, and then an experience of the celestial Thun, the seeker, disciple, is now ready for the third stage of spiritual enlightenment. So let us listen to what the scriptures have to say. Arati jadi lam man chao bhya bairagiya Balaram jiyo. Sant jana har mel har paya. Vad bhagiya Balaram jiyo. Nirmal har paya har gun gaya mukh boli har bani. Sant jana vad bhagi paya har kathiye akath kahani. Hirday har 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 tone upji har japiye mastak bhag jiyo. Jan nanak bole tiji lawe Hari upajay man bairag jiyo. Tiji, the third stage. Why? As the seeker goes deeper into the music of the heavens, as this music is vibrating within the heart of the seeker, sending the seeker deeper and deeper into the meditation, into the Shabd. The soul of the seeker can no longer find its fulfillment in any worldly experiences. It aches and yearns to hear the voice of its Father, of its Creator. For how many lives has it been since the soul had been separated from its Maker? And for the first time, it actually experienced that voice. Imagine a little child who hasn't seen their father for years and years, and then one day the father walks in and calls the name of the child. That voice, that experience, that love, that passion. This is what the soul feels. And once it's experienced the music of the divine, it wishes to develop a more intimate relationship with the divine. And in the third stage, this is the stage of Bairag. Bairag is a pining for the divine. My Father, I have heard your voice. I can no longer live without you, my divine Father. That every second I am away from the divine, my Father, I am in pain and agony. और रह ना सका बिन देखे प्रीतमा, मैं नीरव है वह चले जियो, चेर 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 है मन बहुत प्यास लगी. From the heart, a voice comes. It's been chir means so long, so long, so long, so long. I am parched. I am parched. There's a rainbird known as a chatrik. And this rainbird is constantly looking up into the heavens. Constantly. And it's waiting for the first raindrop of the monsoon rain, the very first drop. And only then will it get satisfied. And just for that first drop, it simply just looks upwards. Completely focused. It was winter's night. Sitting under a tree was Guru Nanak Dev Ji. He was restless and could not go to sleep. Mardana Ji was a Muslim, but he had been a follower of Guru Nanak Dev Ji all his life. And he had noticed his master's behavior of restlessness had been going on for some days. This morning, the monsoon season had started. Guru Nanak Dev Ji wakes up Mardana, and without saying a word, Guruji and Mardana set off. Mardana did not ask Guruji. He simply just woke up, got his rabab, his ragak together, and started following him. There were many days of travel in front of them. There were no roads, no drainage systems like we have in this day and age. There was no street lighting. So in the dark, Guruji set off. And after a few days, they came to a village known as Saidpur. And it was early hours of the morning. The villagers were waking up for their morning chores, going to the farms, feeding the animals. It was cold, it was damp. The rainy season was in full swing. Mardana was hungry, tired, but like always followed his master faithfully without question. Guru Nanak Dev Ji walked up to this hut. It was a very simple mud hut. You can imagine in those days, very simple. And he looks at Mardana, he says, Mardana, go knock on the door. So in the muddy grounds, Mardana ji walked up to the door and knocks on the door. Whilst Guruji stood in the rain, waiting for the door to open. Eventually, on hearing the knocking on the door, a voice shouted back, "Who is it knocking on this door at this hour of the morning?" Guru Nanak Dev Ji replies, "Sat Kartar." Sat Kartar means the Lord is the truth. "Son, Lalo, I am here." Lalo had been thinking about Guru Nanak Dev Ji and he stopped eating. He would cook his meal and leave some for Guru Nanak Dev Ji, hoping that Babaji would come. And his heart was in pain, yearning. And as he was yearning, Guru Nanak Dev Ji's heart became in pain. You know, half the reason we have problems with our prayers, we say our prayers, we say our grace, we hold our hands, but there's no yearning in those prayers. It's a tick box exercise. There's no yearning, and without yearning, this prayer is never going to reach its intended target. It will never. It becomes no more than just words. A true prayer has to come from pining, from a yearning. Son, your yearning of the heart could not let me sleep. Let me in. Lalo scurries towards the door. His happiness knew no bounds. He got up as fast as he could and rushed to open the door. He sees Guru Nanak Dev Ji and Mardana standing outside, drenched with rain. Lalo rushed out to Guruji and falls straight to Guruji's feet. Lying there in the mud and would not lift his head, crying, washing the feet of Guruji with his tears of yearning. Guruji bends over, holds Lalo's shoulders and lifts Lalo. And not noticing all the mud on Lalo's clothing, Guruji gives Lalo a big hug. Lalo just standing there. What's happened? What's happened? He was absolutely confused and don't know what was going on. Guru Nanak Dev Ji himself waiting outside in my house. Guru Nanak Dev Ji said, "Lalo, son, are you not going to invite me into your home?" With tears of happiness, Lalo leads Guruji and Mardana into his mud hut. And as they entered, Mardana was surprised at the simplicity of Lalo. He had one room to sleep in, and he had one small area for a kitchen. There was no manja, little chair, or pidi, as it was known, for Guruji to sit on. And yet Guruji came such a long way in the winter days to visit this person. Lalo looked at Guruji. Guruji said, "Lalo, I'm hungry, son." Lalo found a few dry sticks, lit a fire. He made a makeshift pidi and Guruji sat on it. Lalo went to prepare some food. As Lalo went to prepare the meal, Mardana started to massage the tired feet of Nanak Ji. Baba Nanak Ji. Mardana Ji asked while massaging the feet of Baba Ji, "Baba, who is this person that you have come to?" But Nanak Dev Ji smiled. "He is my true son. I have come to the house of meditation." This is the house of my true devotee. He had been restless for many, many days, to the point that I could not go sleep, Mardana ji. As Guruji and Mardana were talking, Lalo brings in the food, some dry chapati, very dry. He was a very poor person. And he washes Guruji's hands and places in front of Guruji a very dry chapati. Guruji blesses the meal, and with every portion of the dry chapati Guruji was biting into, which we call a grahi, Guruji looked at Lalo. Lalo, what a beautiful meal. What a wonderful meal. I have been hungry for so many days. Thank you, my son. Thank you. Watching Guruji eat his simple offering with so much happiness and contentment, Lalo's mind was filling with ecstasy. All Lalo's dreams had come true. So then the third stage, the Virag stage, is also known as the stage of the yearning heart. And in the yearning heart, the prayer of the devotee will be heard in an instant. So what are the steps? So after experiencing the heavenly orchestra of the divine in the second stage, we walk into what we know as ciao, not Italian. This is not Italian, this is ciao. It means a euphoria, an excitement, a feeling of uncontrolled happiness. Man ciao piha prab agam sunya. Ciao. A feeling of uncontrolled happiness, an excitement of the joy of the inner heart that cannot be described by any words, an experience which will erupt in the heart of the seeker. So in the third stage, ciao. Whereas in the first two stages, you have to fight your mind, in the third stage, that fight stops. Going to school, going to see the teacher, getting up in the morning, doing meditation, and it's a fight. It's a fight against Maya all the time. But in the third stage, this fight becomes ciao. So ciao can be expressed in many ways. However, in this context, it is best described as when one is still and quiet in the mind. In other words, the forces of Maya are no longer pulling the seeker. This is when the heart simply naturally opens and it expresses itself as pure love. It's like the rose which simply naturally opens, no force, it simply opens. This is how the state of ciao is. A state of love, acceptance, peace, contentment, and tranquility. And then from the ciao, you move into the second. Santajana halmer har paya, Santajana har mel har paya, Vad bhagiya Balaram Jiyo. Now is the gift of great fortune. And this is where I need to share one thing with you. At this stage, when I mention the word fortune, I say many times in the past that it's a blessing. Even up to this stage, do not assume that you are reaching anywhere, because at this stage, it's a blessing. The one who will be gifted with great fortune will be gifted the company of a true humble saint of the divine to be part of their life. So that's the gift you will get to take you to the next level. And in the company of such souls, what happens? The natural state of consciousness of love will be revealed. Who are you? What is your purpose? Everything will be revealed to you in the third stage. You will begin to realize your essence. for the first time, you are not Bahadur or John or Flowing or Grizzly or Cheyenne. No. You suddenly realize that is not who I am. These are the names that were given to me. But who am I? You will find, you will realize, it will be revealed to you that you are the essence. And the more this revelation falls into your heart, the more you begin to realize who you are, the more the divine essence will begin to live through you. You will no longer be living as Usha or James or Mandeep. You will now be living something much higher than that. Nirmal har paya har gun gaya mukh borli har bani. Your mind will be bathing in the immaculate waters of the purest Shabd. And any little bit of that mind which had been polluted by filth, any little bit will be totally removed. And the seeker of the divine will begin to sing the praises of the Lord with all their passion. No longer will this be a challenge. No longer must I, how long, or do I have to? You cannot live without it. Everything else will become worthless. You will find no other enjoyment. Your passion, your singing for the divine, your love, the realization who you are. Santa janavad bhagi paya har kathiya katha kahani. And in the company of the divine soul, the divine seeker will begin to understand the unspoken language of the divine. This understanding is going to come from deep within. It will just express itself. No teacher can put this into you. They will show you, they will encourage you, they will bless you. But then ultimately the blessing has got to come from the divine. So it's a two-way. The teacher's blessing, then ultimately the divine blessing. And the unspoken language of the divine, which is also known as the silent language of the infinite, you will begin to understand. E bani jo jio jane tes antar rave har nama. Those souls who understand these words from deep within will for the first time understand the ways of the divine. Hirday har 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 tone upji, har japiye mastak bhag jiyo. Once you realize who you are, the vibration of the Lord, har, 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 Vaheguru, Vaheguru, will begin to vibrate and resound in the heart. And a spiritual insignia of meditation will be inscribed just here. People talk about this because they have read, but in the third stage, this is completely different. It's not internet. This is an experience. From this insignia, you can look at somebody and you can see their lives and where they're going to go. It's an insignia that is given by the divine themselves. And once this insignia is inscribed upon the forehead of the seeker for the first time will realize its purpose and destiny. Jan Nanak bole tiji lame, Hari upajay man bairag jiyo. And Servant Nanak proclaims that in the third round of the marriage ceremony, the mind is filled with the divine love for the Lord. Vairag is born from a profound dispassion or renunciation. We see people that will cry sometimes. That is not vairag. True vairag comes from a profound dispassion or a renunciation. Because they've lost the taste of the world. They've lost the passion of the glitz and glamour of the world. How? Through the transient realization of the nature of the world. Now, there are many ways people develop vairag. Sometimes you have a bad experience with somebody and you say, that's it, I'm finished with relationships. That's not vairag. That is not vairag. True vairag will develop an infinity towards your path, towards God and your spirituality. Suffering is another form of vairag. You're in problems, nobody's there for you, you've suffered all your own, and now you've had enough of the people. But that is not vairag. You might be very severely discomforted when living and dealing in this world. You hide away from people. That is not vairag. The vairag in spiritual terms is known as para vairag. Para, P-A-R-A, vairag. And this is the vairag of the true spiritual seeker. This is that vairag which is suffered by the many saints of many different religions, which is born from a supreme, dispassionate heart. When the seeker in the third stage realizes their true identity. And that all their lives, all the pain that they had suffered, all the time that they had lost, all the investment they made in the lies and the deceits of the false promises of the Maya, on the expectations they had, ultimately they were let down. And when this vairag, this true vairag, takes place in the seeker's heart, now the third stage is complete. Thank you very much.